sure we got us live. Just let me move my mic a little bit closer so I can figure out this sound management. Hi, I'm Frostgrain again. We're going to do China Talk this time. It's not being hosted by Paravine. It is going to be hosted by LPLEn, so huge thank you to LPLEn and Twitch for allowing us to use their stream. With me, same panelists, in fact, some reoccurring faces. Hubo, actually from Portugal. What, that's off-scene in the field reporting? I don't know.
Yeah, it did.
Exactly. Next to him
Me
is
and me and Shakarez are doing the inside reporting job, dude.
Oh, did you guys meet up?
No, we never got to, but it's okay.
Next to him is going to be Drexen, Esports Heaven Editor-in-Chief. On the very end is going to be Kelsey Moser representing On Gamers and LOL Esports. Same thing goes, still the same show, continuing with the episodes, everything like that. So let's just break it down because it's been a very busy... Wow, I wish I could speak. It's really late for me. I feel very tired. Recap of the week. Very busy for LPL. Effectively, we had all of our best of 5 series for the finals. So let's just go down. First game, LGD versus EDG. I know it kind of sent you guys a ways back, but we saw the first appearance of Wayless's Lissandra. But I just want to give it over to you. Like, just initial thoughts from you guys. LGD versus EDG. How did you think of the two teams?
LGD got their fucking shit.
I found it very surprising that it was so convincing in favor of EDG.
Me too. I knew that EDG was good, and I said that EDG would be good, but I thought LGD would put a bigger fight, not just in this set, but in the rest of their sets as well. But they seemed, I don't know. I think Chuan in 17 looked very lost at times. Also, XQ looked lost at times too, in terms of not in terms of his positioning, but in terms of when to rotate to lanes and how to push minion waves out at certain moments throughout the game. I thought PYL played well, and I thought Wayless played well, but you know the rest of the team just couldn't pick it up. It's unfortunate because that team has a lot of talent, but EDG has more talent, and not only do they have more talent, they're much more organized in terms of their gameplay. They play a very, they play a well-paced game. I honestly think that it kind of feels like Koreans are breaking the game with how well they play. But then, in my opinion, the Chinese EDG right now plays the game like it's designed to be. Not really. Kind of a little bit anti-snowball, but individuals can still carry. You have team fights at Dragon that are really important. Vision control around Dragon and Baron. That's all really big.
Kelsey, Mike. Initial thoughts before we start breaking down into kind of each player's performance, because I have some sub-questions that go into this.
I think I'm not surprised that LGD lost to that version of EDG. I'm surprised that that version of EDG showed up.
Now, when you make that statement, clarify.
Yes, right.
The different versions
I was going to get into this. So, Clearlove is a very interesting player in that, excuse me, he's not naturally inclined to gank a lot. He's very much inclined to farm the jungle and to try to play these carry jungle style champions like the Evelyn. He played a lot on Nunu, and then he played both of this playoffs, but he's more inclined to do the farm style and then come out late and then just be a very strong teamfight presence. This time around, and in last spring playoffs, he ganked very proactively. EDG played a much faster paced game. They also did this earlier in the summer playoffs. And then towards the end, they were falling off, and suddenly he just turned it on again, which makes me think that he has some control over when he can do this, over when he can really bring his game. But it's kind of weird anyway, so...
Michael?
Yeah, it was very inconsistent, and additionally I do want to touch up on just how bad the jungle beating was, which I think was actually ultimately LGD's biggest demise. I mean, Schwen even got Lee Sin 2 out of 3 of the games in that set, and he just couldn't do anything against Clearlove in the jungle, and his pressure was extremely limited in comparison to Clearlove's, which is very odd because of how inconsistent Clearlove's been with his presence on the map.
How many times did Clearlove play Nunu? Twice? Or once?
In that set?
It was only once or twice. No, in the playoffs.
That was the...
It was only because they played it once during the.
Definitely wasn't during this.
During the OMG.
Yeah, during OMG. He played Nunu. He played the Nunu Jinx.
They didn't play Starhorn.
Which, if you actually look at his Nunu stats, they're ridiculous for Clearlove.
Yeah, honestly, the Nunu Jinx was fucking disgusting.
His all time. Let's bring this up.
Pretty dirty.
Now that we're talking about it, we can go on to another question.
Well. The dude plays I also think that because right now the way the meta works right now, and I think it became apparent with the Curse and the TSM sets. The way the meta is right now is that playmaking champions aren't really out of favor, but right now you have champions such as Nunu, such as Kha'Zix, and to an extent Lee Sin, to an extent Jarvan the Fourth. You need to have champions that really exert pressure all over the map, and by exerting pressure, I mean they clear camps quickly. They are able to buy early wards, and then they're able to put wards in the enemy jungle so that you can come and be prepared for counter ganks. So that's the kind of jungling style you have right now. And Nunu and Kha'Zix and Evelyn succeed in doing that. So that's why I think right now the meta is shifting in Clearlow's favor. And I thought that before the playoffs started, and I think it's become apparent that is the case.
Your background noise is really intense, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Just use
Okay.
push to talk when available.
Yeah.
Hugo touched on something really important that I kind of wanted to get in, especially for the LGD EDG game. It was the warding. So China notoriously has been really underdeveloped as far as warding. It was kind of night and day, like literally, as we got into playoffs, and I think it really was set the tone by LGD EDG, not just on EDG side, but LGD I thought did a fair bit of decent wording as well. Specifically, I personally felt it was very apparent that LGD and EDG had taken notes from the OGN finals, because there are a lot of similar wards, and you would constantly see teams would, back, they'd see Dragon coming up, they'd back, they'd buy a bunch of pink wards, and that never really had been seen before in China.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely improved a lot, and I always found it kind of funny because in my notes for LGD, I actually took down that worded a lot to see their inevitable death, which is kind of what happened, because they did get the vision down, but they didn't react on it as well as EDG. But yeah, just in general, I mean, and this isn't just for the playoff teams either. I mean, this is from teams like IG and Young Glory and all that stuff too. Mm-hmm. Just to debunk people that might be joining to see the show off the hype of the recent. Victory at the LPL playoffs. But yeah, it's just been getting a lot better in China. And like pretty much the whole vision thing is like one of the least things you can complain about in China if you're going to try to find something to pinpoint about their play.
Not only the vision, though, the team fighting mechanics have been very, very on point. I said before, at all your motherfuckers, that EDG would come first in this split, and I was right, as always. So, yeah, no. But then I think what... I think the way that both Koro and Clearlove, especially if Clearlove continues to get this Nunu, right? The way that Koro and Clearlove are able to kite for Name as well, I think that's really special to watch. Like kind of like the ebb and flow of the top laner and the jungler in team fights. I think that's really, really cool to watch because especially for Koro, like when he plays like champions like Aurelia, he really knows how to like space himself around the map, so you'll see him like kite for his AD carry, then eventually make his way to the enemy back line. It's just like really, it's almost like artistry. It's really beautiful to watch him, go from one place to another so quickly on his Aurelia, on Maokai, on champions with reliable gap closers like that.
No, I like that you brought up Core, but we've been talking a lot about EDG, which of course makes sense because EDG looks fantastic. But again, I want to gear more towards. I feel like Wayless, as far as the community in general, kind of got overlooked. I mean, yeah, LGD didn't have the best showing at playoffs, but where do you guys feel that Wayless really stands? I mean, bringing out can we talk about his Lissandra pick? I mean, he played Lissandra into an Orianna. He out-farmed Orianna by 100 CS and out-roamed Orianna. And not only that, but he insta-gibbed Name in probably about 3 team fights. I think Wayless had, the Spectral Wraith Lissandra build?
I think Name mispositioned in those fights.
I kind of want to talk about that from a hipster perspective, just because like a long time ago, So a long time ago, I wrote an article for Ghosted Gamers like 4 or 5 months ago about how they were changing these things and how I thought they would benefit mid laners, which of course got downvoted into oblivion at the time. But I raised a lot of points about how good it is for like the farming style of mid lane, and especially with the jungle control overall. And yeah, it was so awesome to see. I mean, like, if that item existed in Season 2, or if those items existed in Season 2 for mid laners, holy cow. But that's kind of how Wayless was, but he wasn't, like, so much like you, where he would take champions and, like, not do anything with them. I still feel like he was probably the best performer during that set.
He was. Him or PYL?
Him and PYL, I'll say. But yeah, I found that really, really interesting, and I think more people should start to adapt that, especially in champions like Orianna. I know I've seen Orianna do it a few times in like throughout season 4. But yeah, I just really like the adaptation. I think it's really smart. The item's very cost efficient, and if you're going to be giving, or if the jungler is going to be giving up his farm, or if it's not to clear love, then the Wayless, then I don't know. I think it was really cool.
Honestly, though, you bring up a good point, because the reason why he was picking Lissandra, we have to remember that the reason why Wayless was picking Lissandra, right, was because Orianna was getting picked in the first rotation in almost every game by the side of EDG. Okay, so what that means is that Wayless, on whether he was on the purple side or on blue side, he had the opportunity to counterpick, but he kept locking Lissandra, which I don't think was the right adaptation. Like I wanted to see Wayless play something like, something like Yasuo. I wanted to see him play something like Zed's. Play maybe, Fizz is not a great matchup, but then play an assassin, something that can carry. He spams Orianna and solo key. Well, he used to, but he's an Orianna main solo key. Like, why wasn't he playing Orianna? So I think that Wayless could have made a lot more adaptations, and you really saw like Lissandra as a champion. You really saw her limitations in team fights, and that's why most pros don't play her. And the pros that do like to play Lissandra, most professionals play her in the top lane instead of in the mid lane. She just has weaknesses. She has like severe weaknesses, and other champions do what she does even better than what like Liss.
I actually disagree with the Lissandra pick being bad that game. I think that because you also made the statement earlier in the show that Name mispositioned that fight. You can't really misposition if there's a glacial tomb like targeting you every single time. Like, that isn't mispositioning. But what was a good adaptation there was the fact that all of LGD would immediately go for Name, and then you would knock them out with the AoE. If they didn't immediately jump on and they just waited for the Glacial Tomb, that fight would have gone so much better every time, because Name would have been deleted from the picture. Like, effectively, Lissandra was an assassin. It's just that after that, they all clumped for the shockwave and got destroyed. So
right, no, but then what I'm saying is that if it wasn't Lissandra, but if it was another champion, then they could have done more in the team fight.
They would have all clumped and gotten destroyed. That's all. That's
also
what happened every time. Because they jumped on. The problem was that they all jumped on Name, and they all jumped together.
Also, I'd like to.
I think you're generalizing the team fights a little bit. Like,
well,
whereas in every single team fight, like Wayless got fucked after he did his job.
Yeah, for sure. But Wayless got destroyed after every team fight. But that doesn't matter if they destroy the sustained damage source on EDG, right? Because then they still have theirs.
I'm saying that Wayless. I wanted to see more from Wayless. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I'm saying I wanted to see more. Like,
well, he doesn't have to. Like, all he has to do is destroy the sustained damage source. That's like his job. That he did that.
What do you think?
Mike? Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that I do think that they assessed the situation and like went to the champions before the game started, and did think that Lissandra would be the best champion that they were going to go for. Not only because maybe there's champions that do what he does better, but I mean Yasuo you brought up, that was bad in all 3 games, and Zed he did pick in game 3 eventually, and so I mean. I think the element of surprise helped a little bit. I think when you can specialize in a champion and bring it out and actually make it serve its purpose, while it's still efficient, I think it actually is an advantage to pick champions that aren't really well known. I don't know if they've used it in scrims or whatever, but I will say, it's kind of hard to dictate whether it was actually a good choice or not, because, you can say that it was a great pick, but, LGD did lose 3-0 in that set, so it's debatable, but I do think that for the specific purpose that they did, and with Yasuo out, if they're going to go for a team fight composition, it was really good, because if you can take Name out of the fight immediately, that instantly makes a team fight against a team that you're not going to be able to win team fights against that much easier. And I think that might have been one of the only chances they had to pick someone that could get in and CC people and take out Name.
Yeah, I know, and we probably want to move on, but then I do want to say that just the reason why Wayless became so effective in. I think first, don't get me wrong. Wayless, I think, almost effectively outplayed you in most phases of that best of 3, right? But then imagine what he would have done if he had a champion that had an earlier power spike, or he had a champion that didn't build Spirit of the Spectral Wraith and then waited 30 minutes to get the Void Staff and the Rabadans and stuff like that. So,
but it allowed them to get early Baron. The fact that they had the 2 jungle items.
Yeah, no. I'm obviously there are benefits of having jungle items. I'm just saying
I
lost
just
3-0.
I feel like the natural inclination is to fixate on the Lissandra pick when there were so many other factors like
And this is
EDG
the
showing
next-
up.
No, I'm
And
not. No. Wait. That's not what I'm like. That's not what I'm saying though. All I'm saying is that I spent 10 minutes giving Name props. Like, I'm not saying that. I mean, not Name. Wayless props. Like, Wayless isn't a bad. He's an excellent mid laner, right? But then, like, there's a reason why Lissandra isn't like a highly contested pick everywhere else in the world.
we'll just
and there are
agree to disagree and move on.
there are champions that do what she does better than what Liss does in the game.
So here comes the next question. If we discount Wayless, what would you guys think was the problem? Why did they lose that game? Was it entirely in Chwin? Was it in the bot lane? Like where were the issues going for them?
I'm honestly going to go ahead and fixate their main issues on the jungle because I feel like Chwen did not do anything for his team.
Does that
and I do
have
think the pick,
something to do with Wayless taking all of the farm? Or
I think it might have a little bit to do, but I think even without that Clearlove was clearly running the whole jungle. And additionally, I guess picks could be one thing. Like, I do understand that they were going for the fast Baron, and I think that worked out for them as the only chance for them. But on top of that, they also picked other champions that were kind of questionable. Like 17 picked Kale, and I'm not really feeling Kale in China unless it's Koro, because Koro plays it in a very unique way that the rest of the world doesn't play it right now. In the same way that you kind of play Ziggs for Name. If that makes any sense, I can probably elaborate on that later. But yeah, I think it was a mix of like pick and ban. Not so much that, but the primary thing is I definitely think jungle influence.
I also thought number 17 underperformed. I have high expectations of this guy because I think he has the talent to be really good, but then he didn't really do anything in the games. Like it wasn't really spectacular. It wasn't really spectacular play. Like after you have like Willis blowing up the 80 carry, you expect like a top laner who's had a lot of time to himself to go in and make plays, right? But then like 17 didn't do anything. Dude, you're supposed to be able to do something if you're like enemy. If your mid laner blows the enemy 80 carry up, like that's the job of the top laner. But he just clumped up with the rest of the group. He just clumped up with the rest of like the 80 carry and the support in the jungle. I was like, what the hell are they doing? Like, how did you possibly get? And there was like that one game where FCZ played as like fucking God Annie, and then he like got like 5 members into one tip result. I was like, is this real fucking life? Like, how is that even possible? Like, ugh, so terrible, so bad. God.
And additionally, I'd like to point out that I think LGD, Edward Gaming caught on a bit after they realized what was going on and how LGD were trying to play with the Lissandra after the first game, because they immediately picked up. You actually dropped Oriana, who he did play a little bit better this week than prior weeks, and then picked up Zillion for the second and third game because they realized exactly what LGD were trying to do. And I think that also kind of threw off. Like, that's where I wanted to elaborate a little bit on the picks and ban issue on top of the jungle thing, is I think that EDG adapted really well to the circumstance of what LGD pulled out.
So let's move on to the next series because we'll get a chance to talk about LGD and EDG, of course. The next series was OMG versus Starhorn Royal Club. Probably
so funny.
It was both probably the most awful series and the best series at the very same time. The first glaring problem, because this was the first series that we saw it, OMG cannot handle a best of 3, essentially. They need the full best of 5 to, in their 2 previous series, and we even saw this in the finals, to get off of the ground. The fact that both their series before, leading in to give them that second place spot, they came back in getting 2-0'd and then came back on the back half of it. Do you guys, why is that? What is causing this? Is this true that OMG needs time to ramp up their adaptability? Is this a coaching issue?
It makes you wonder whether in the finals, if EDG had not had that extra game, whether the results would have been any different. I'm not saying that they would have been, but it does make you slightly wonder. I think for OMG specifically, first of all, Dada looked like he was fucking win trading in some of those games. Like, god damn, he's a terrible support. No, he had a few good games. Like, I think throughout the playoffs, he's shown his worth.
I want to cut you off for a second there, just because I want to say that I do think he had better games, but the fact that these are probably his best games is what concerns
of all time.
Me.
Yeah,
that's what concerns me.
He is a very low skill ceiling. Like, I've seen, I play a better Thresh than fucking Dada. Like, this guy was like missing hooks. It wasn't like Kiwi Kid level, but it was pretty close. I was like, this guy even challenger? Like, holy shit. Anyways, I also, I hate to say this, right? Because he's one of my favorite players of all time, but Cool also got. I think Cool. There were communication issues because sometimes there were times that like when like Cool would go here and the going would go here and then the teleports would be off or the roams would be like they're like 15 to 10 to 15 seconds off and it would just be like really like awkward. Like you'd have like these awkward silences like oh like what the fuck are you doing in the bottom lane or what the hell are you doing here like shit like why are you here Cool come on man like ugh. I also noticed like. This dude didn't play a lot of TF. Like I thought I respected one of the reasons why I really respected Cool is because
5 different champions for that entire series.
Yeah, I mean, I respected him because I was like, this guy's like the most cerebral man in China. Like he has to play the Twisted Fate to control the pressure, control the way the game is flowing. But like, his assassins are good though. Cool's assassins are really good.
He had a good
And I'm
rise with
surprised-
AP Kog'Maw. I was actually really surprised about the AP Cog particularly
and
because I wouldn't
I'm
think that would work with China.
I'm really surprised Cool hasn't been picking Fizz, considering how good some of his Fizz games were in the early on in the season. But each his own. Your mic
yourself.
is muted.
I hope she hasn't been
It's
trying to
banned
talk this whole time.
it was banned really Fizz was banned pretty reliably, mostly because of Corrin, but yeah, that said I think it was banned like every game. I think the thing about OMG is definitely you hit on it, the communication issues. It wasn't so much that each player was playing poorly individually, it was just that like they didn't know where they were going. They didn't like the teleports. Going's teleports are usually really solid, really on point. There were obviously some issues going into that set. There are obviously some issues like going to the playoffs, but the fact that, they still beat Starhorn Royal Club in 2 best-of-5s that were drawn out just proves that OMG is like really the superior team in a best-of-5 format. I want to touch on Cool's Yasuo because a point I want to emphasize that people have probably heard a lot from me already is that Cool had a really bad Yasuo before like this playoff series. It wasn't good. I don't think he's done well on it. He's played it like 3 times maybe in the past. And each time it's been really underwhelming. If you look at his Korean solo queue account, which I haven't in a while, it's called Cool3. It's his most played champion, and for a while it was the only champion that with a less than 50% win rate, and it's been steadily climbing. Last I checked, it was like 49% last week. It might be higher now.
He's been playing against Faker too. I think that's kind of funny. Like, enter the hyperbolic time chamber with Faker. Like
yeah, exactly. So the fact that like that is what really impresses me about Cool is I feel like there will be a lot of players who will just say, no, I can't play this champion, I can't deal with it, just ban it. But it's almost like he was personally offended by the fact that he was a bad Yasuo player, and he just like played it over and over again, like more than 130 games or something on Korean solo queue alone with this
the past 2
Yasuo.
weeks, like not even like across.
And then
he really played that Yasuo.
Like he comes out with it against a direct counter, right?
Rise,
and then he just like
dumpsters.
Destroys. Obviously, like the early lane phase wasn't that great, and you could see like sort of the mechanism of the counter. But then on the invade, like him and Drug just played that really well, and he got that double kill, and then like the game was over. He just needed that little bit. It was really, really interesting to see. Like I love that game in terms of like if you want to see someone just destroy someone, that's the game to watch.
Again, we're talking a lot about the winner. I also want to talk about the loser, and in that case it was Starhorn Royal Club. I talked about during the cast, I said that Starhorn Royal Club is they're almost like Woodley. There's a very formula way about how they play and how they find their victories. And I feel like halfway through, if we talk about kind of the adaptability, and you guys can, argue or make your points against this, to me, observing that game, halfway through the series, you suddenly saw OMG placing really deep early wards in Insect jungle and just keeping track of where he was. And I feel like that's kind of the key to Starhorn Royal Club. If you just control Insect's early lane pressure, particularly on the bottom side of the map, and just hang on, you can beat them late game because they still have zero idea how to close. I mean, would you guys disagree, add anything to that? Change anything up there? Because I feel like it's very one-dimensional style of play, and that's why Starhorn Royal Club will never be an amazing team.
Yeah, Insect got pretty railed. Like, he got railed pretty hard. Also, like, Insect doesn't seem like... I think Insect might play, like, a lot of Kha'Zix. Like, his Kha'Zix isn't bad, but, like, Insect doesn't really seem like the kind of jungler that would succeed in this type of meta. Additionally, Starhorn Royal Club. I think Starhorn Royal Club is the team where, like, you can tell 15 minutes in whether they're going to win or lose, because, like, honestly, after they make a few decisions, then if they make good decisions, then they go on and steamroll the rest of the game quite methodically. If they make bad decisions in the first 15 minutes of the game, it seems like they go on tilt, and I don't know if they do or not, but then they just they go off kilter. They make just terrible decision making throughout the team. Really, I think Korn doesn't have good decisions. Like, Cola always plays champions that rewards good decision making in the first 15 minutes. So if you fuck up the early game with a player like Cola, then he's kind of like fucked for the rest of the game, eh? And then also, Insect he's a good jungler. He's okay, but, like, what else am I gonna say, right? Like, this guy, dude doesn't show up when it counts. Like, he got his shit stomped against Drug, right? And I don't even think, like, Drug is, like, fantastic. Like, well, I think Drug is really good, but I don't think he's, like, like, as good as, like, Korean junglers or something like that. So, like, I was like, God, what is this guy doing? Like, Drug loved him, read him like a book, dude. Like, ugh, it was pretty bad. It was hard to watch. But that's the team that Starhorn Royal Club is going to be. They have a skill ceiling. I mean, their skills. I mean, they have a, like, I don't even think they're going to get better. Like, we always talk about, like, oh, they're a team with, like, good mechanics, and if they just learn strategy, they'll get better. I honestly don't. I think, like, just it's been apparent just because they played almost the exact same way they did in the beginning of the season. I think it's pretty apparent that they're not going to get better, and that's why people like Kelsey and I have been, like, so hard on them, because we know that, like, if you, like, put some time into it, maybe you could do this and this a little bit better. But we still see the same problems, the exact same issues we saw in week 1. So I don't care. Like, Starhorn Royal Club, if they make it to the World Championships, they're not going to get out of group stages, and so if they do make it to the World Championships, they're not going to get out of group stages.
You don't think Starhorn Royal Club can beat any of the Western teams?
Who are the Western teams going to be in their pool, though? Alliance and or Fnatic and Cloud9?
Just take the top Western teams. You don't think that... Fnatic, you don't think Starhorn Royal Club can beat Fnatic?
No, they'll be Fnatic easily.
But do you think Alliance?
No, they're not going to beat Alliance.
Why?
Starhorn Royal Club in a best of 5?
Break it down to me. Give me the bullet points.
Because, first of all, Insect is extremely easy to read. Like, literally, just have an analyst go over Insect's games, and then you'll be able to read his jungle pathing like a book, because the guy does the same thing every single game.
But if you're saying an analyst to read and then to give that information to Alliance, there has been a lot of, public about how Wicked's a bit of a stubborn player. That it's hard for the analyst to give him the information and to have him go through with it. So yeah, I understand that Starhorn World Club, like, looking at it objectively, we can say this, this, and this, but do you honestly think that can be implemented quickly enough by a Western team? This is Uzi, like, just because Insect's easy to read, this is Uzi and Zero.
Here's what I think. The meta has gone back to favoring teams with cerebral junglers and cerebral mid lane. I think that's where the meta is looking right now. And Alliance has a cerebral jungler and a cerebral mid laner, and I think that they're in a pretty good spot. The only issue is Tabs might get fucked by UZI and Zero, which is not good. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. So Tabs has to be Tabs. And
then again, Wicked's pretty good at 2v1, isn't he? They could try to.
Yeah, Wicked. Maybe.
That's the thing. That's the thing I do against Starhorn Royal Club, because I think they make much worse decisions when they 2v1 though. Like, that's the thing. Like, Insect will dive early, and you could probably react to that well in 2v1 situations.
I still think it'd be an advantageous move for them, though.
No, that's what I'm saying. In a 2v1 situation, that's, like, the best chance I think Alliance has of beating them. I think otherwise, though, Starhorn Royal Club just plays, like, way too fast. Even if they don't have, like, the best decisions, I feel like Alliance will be slow to react to what you're doing. And like you said, Starhorn Royal Club is, like, the team you can tell in the first 15 minutes if they're going to win. they'll figure out like the first to 15 minutes, and they'll just like go through, and I think they'll just be moving too fast, make their plays too quickly for Alliance to beat them. And then like on a team fight level, like Starhorn Royal Club still team fights like relatively well. So if they take early team fights, I think Starhorn Royal Club can easily snowball ahead of like any European teams like really quickly. And then it won't matter if they can't close.
Jackson?
I do think that has a lot to do with it, like the movement. But yeah, I don't want to discuss so much the Alliance matchup that we don't know is happening. But I'll go back to the set. So one thing I didn't like about Starhorn that I haven't rewatched the games. I've just the notes I have from when they did happen. But it seemed like Starhorn put a really heavy and predictable focus on OMG's bottom lane, which I'm guessing their idea was like, let's just crush them really hard with Uzi and Zero. And then I think, like, not to discredit Cool, because Cool played out of his mind, and I really think that was the best showcasing of like a mid lane player we've seen in months. Like, seriously, just hard carry. But I do think that the pressure was alleviated off of him in favor of OMG and or San and Zero. And I have to give San and Zero a lot of credit here, because normally you'd think in a 2v2 like Uzi and Zero would just kill them, right? But they actually did a really good job of staying. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
okay.
San and Dada. Yeah.
I just wanted to.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, some people didn't know Dadas and yeah, whatever. Yeah. So San and Dada, I have to give a little bit of credit to them for even just staying alive in that lane, and also additionally surviving the pressure that they were under. And then Cool, like the best thing about that though is Cool is so good at capitalizing on that situation and like just doing really well. But I do think that OMG's communication was like the biggest issue. Like, I don't have an issue with like the individual players, but like, holy shit, if you look even into the second game, like OMG were just sticking on Dragon while their inhibitor was getting beaten down.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
and
losing the free inhib.
Nobody was backing. I didn't understand that at all.
It's communication right now. Like, people are fixating on Dada, but people don't realize Dada used to be like a fixture on OMG back in like last season. He played games at Worlds, right? And they won those games. Like, yeah. Dada is obviously not the best player.
No, he's bad.
He's bad. Yeah, we've said publicly that Dada is bad, but like the larger, but OMG is like always been able to. OMG's strength has always been their ability to trust each other, to get those skills off like right away, to be in the same place on the map at the same time, or to be on different sides of the map and coordinate like so perfectly, and to have that team synergy and that flow of communication, like down pat, that. To see them like this is just really, really awkward.
I really think that,
and that's the problem more than Dada.
I really think that the reason. Well, no. Here's the thing, though. I really think that the reason why Cool isn't playing Twisted Fate anymore is because he can't rely on Dada to get his skills off. Because like whenever like Cool plays like champions, like I think. Like when Cool plays like champions like that, like there's one game where like Gogo was playing like Dr. Mundo and the Cool was playing TF, and then like the other team, I think it was against like Starhorn Royal Club or like World Elite, and the other team like threw really hard. They were throwing, and then Cool was able to like just like pour it into the middle of the team, and then literally because Gogoing was one step behind him, they completely lost the fight. And I think just OMG is a team that relies on how individually good they all are, but it's like alchemy, right? They're able to put all of those like elements together and just create one, just like brew one huge like an unreal team fight. And more than just their communication, they have like a really like solid trust in each other to do their roles in the team fight. Like they have excellent mechanics, but yeah, they're limited. They're limited players. San is a limited player, right? So how can you team fight as flowingly and as effectively as OMG does when you're not able to trust your support, who looks like he's fucking win trading? Like, the guy doesn't look that good, right?
Well, yeah, like obviously Dada's a
Kelsey,
problem.
Kelsey, you're right, but like you're completely right that it's just a larger systemic problem overall. But I think that if Cloud got reinserted back into the lineup, a lot of the problems, including the communication issues, would go away fairly quickly. With Cloud back in the lineup, that's the number one team in China.
But the communication issues, the shot callers are actually between what? Drug's their primary shot? No, it's Gogoing and Drug are the primary shot callers, and I guess there was issues that Cloud also wanted to take a shot calling position. You had like this communication issues. Like, I understand what you're saying, like Cloud's skill level over Dada, but I don't think this has anything to do with the support. I feel like these issues are isolated, not necessarily in the 5v5, but you can see them in the skirmish-based 3v3 of Starhorn Royal Club.
And to clarify,
but in the skirmish-based 3v3,
Cool did play Twisted Fate in the playoffs, and that was the one game EDG lost the entire week.
Okay, so my bad. But then, Cool, the 3v3 fights that I saw with OMG with Cool, Drug, and Going usually went pretty well. So it was when the bottom lane got involved that the fights went Ari.
But at the same time, you look at the last 2 games where they got smashed by EDG, right? And it was like Going teleports, Drug mistimed his ganks, Son actually played just fine. It was communication. It was weird. That's not OMG. It's awkward.
So since we're kind of in the mindset of talking about OMG, let's just take it over to the finals. EDG versus OMG. For those of you who didn't see it, EDG is going to represent China at Worlds. It was a 3-0 sweep, technically only 2-game sweep, just because EDG never got knocked down into the losers bracket, which meant that they had a point advantage going in. What the fuck happened in those games? Again, the motif is communication, absolute communication problems all over the bat from OMG. Pick ban phase, I felt was awkward, but I mean, we had a 22-minute surrender in the very first game. Go. I mean, is this EDG? I don't know. Go.
Dude, I just think OMG right now is just and it feels very uncharacteristic, but they're just the most inconsistent team right now, and I feel like a lot of it has to do with them background management and emotions and stuff like that. I really think it's management issues they're going through, because even in their in the last set we were talking about, OMG versus SHRC, they had some shines of brilliance, in the 4th game I believe it was, when they had the Yasuo Shyvana synergy, that obviously was good communication. In this game, there's just nothing. They just got walked over. And I do think that EDG understood the mental situation that OMG was in, because after that 20-minute surrender, they just, oh my god, they just went bottom with 4 people, and OMG just didn't know what to do because the team they formed really good teamwork really early on, and then 5 people went bottom and just took them out, went straight to Dragon, and I think they understood that OMG was just so dismantled that they could just pick them apart like that and just force these really early team plays that normally should be able to be warded and defended early on and should be kind of obvious at this stage of the game, especially with the early trinkets and stuff. But they just walked over them. EDG did a really good job at pinpointing the mental deficiencies that were going on in OMG at this point of the time, and it pretty much just came down to that. So it's just there's no question to me that it's OMG having internal issues, big internal issues, because this is not typical OMG that we've seen, represent Worlds at Season 3 or represent China at All Stars. Yeah, it was bad.
I think the mental issues are a little bit over, because you've been harping on it for 6 months, dude. And I think
I still think it's an issue.
I saw a solid 4 months,
to be clear,
come on, don't you think
management is notoriously bad.
Sucks.
But the other thing is that,
and they also have IG's coach, for people that don't know.
Yeah, IG's coach.
Wait, hold on.
The champion select used to be decent, but now it's awful.
Yo, hold on, let me finish though. Don't you think that if OMG really had maybe it's just against EDG, don't you think that if they had systematic issues, if we knew that they were going to tilt every time they went down 1 or 2 games, then how do they come back against Starhorn Royal Club?
It's not that. I think it's
that was
just the inconsistency. The fact that their communication.
So it's not devastation or whatever Michael's calling it. It's inconsistency.
Yeah, I would say.
So then, but I mean, let's not mix it up then. If it's inconsistency,
but I want to clarify
shit.
that it could have been something that happened directly before the grand finals that could have pushed them to this point.
Let's set the stage.
It didn't happen during the start.
Okay, back up. Let's just set the stage. There are a lot of rumors going down. Just positive energy in kind of relation to OMG. Their roster recently all just abandoned the organization. OMG's org has not the best reputation for its players right now. There is a lot of internal drama and public drama, it seems, kind of brewing around that team. We don't know. There could be an internal factor causing emotional issues perhaps for the players. I mean, so I agree that it did look like a case of tilt. Like watching the at least the finals for me, not necessarily the Starhorn Royal Club OMG games, that looked like direct miscommunication, but as far as the finals, that looked like tilting.
I can't really say because I feel like they played weird against Starhorn in the games that they lost to. So again, like Hubo brought up the point, if EDG didn't have that 1 point advantage, like what would have happened? I still think OMG would have lost, but maybe they could have pulled it together for a game like they did in the earlier set. I don't know, because they were showing like the same like weird miscommunication errors that they were before. Like I would say the one bright spot is that Going played pretty consistently in all games except the grand final and like one game in a Starhorn Royal Club match.
Going was very good.
Yeah, Going was very good. Like people highlight
I think
how
he's good, but I feel like his teleports were a little bit off. But I do think that can be attributed to calls. Yeah, I think that can be attributed to calls and not so much just Going's fault, because I know like teams don't just, like the top laner doesn't just gauge, oh, I'm going to teleport now. It's usually like a call of some sort, so I don't want to put that on him because he has been so good, but that was something that I could criticize.
So who's making the teleport call? Could it be Dada7?
I don't know.
It all comes back to
It's all Dada7.
God.
No.
He's got rid of this guy.
I mean, it could all be Dada7, and it's just that the Chinese competition has increased drastically since the last time they used him. But the... I was gonna say, but... Just inconsistency in communication. They seem slower to adapt. I do think Best of 5 is their format right now. So hopefully, if they go to Worlds, they can make it out of group stage.
Well, let's talk about Best of 5, because in regionals...
Well, we don't know that for sure, actually, because, like,
Tencent changing things
changes
last second.
stuff last minute, and they actually said on their Weibo, format for regionals still unsure. So
we don't know if it's BO3 anymore?
So we still don't even know if it's BO3, apparently.
Okay,
we don't even know if it's the same thing that Paravine posted, like, months ago. It probably isn't, because China likes to screw with us, so...
Just like how we thought it
They're
was
gonna
going to
go
be
back
blind
in
pick, and then
patches.
it suddenly wasn't.
They
Yeah.
probably have to, like, that's because they just added all these tournaments, though. So they probably have to, like, accommodate, like, fucking
I want to
NEST. Like,
I want to
Yeah,
back
they
it up a
can
little
change
bit.
the dates, like, as many as, like, 3 days before, so it could expand, like
I want
it
you
did
guys...
for the playoff.
Kelsey,
World Elite Height.
congratulations, World Elite. No, I want you guys to break it down. I wanted to have a little EDG segment. I feel like we probably did this at the very beginning, but just because they are the team for sure going to Worlds. So effectively, it comes down to this. First and foremost, just talk about EDG, who they are, start with the history. So someone, all of you guys, I don't care if this is a group project, give me the history of EDG. What is this narrative?
Wait, are we talking about Aaron?
There was a team.
Well, I
called
have
Rebel
coaching
League.
staff is next. So yeah, history. Let's do the history of the team first, and then I'm going to ask you guys about the coaching, specifically Aaron.
Once upon a time, there was a team called World Elite. There was a coach. There was a manager on this team named King, and then he was approached by this coach man named Aaron. And Aaron told this guy that his sister killed herself. Yeah,
Killed
his sister
herself,
killed herself because King rejected her when she asked him out. He made like these fake Weibo accounts and all this other stuff to add credence to it, and he had like people corroborating for him to blackmail him emotionally so that he could become the coach for World Elite.
Fucking original gangster. Holy shit.
That's
like an anime show.
It's a soap opera.
I've seen anime shows that are less like horror than...
so first of all, that's really awkward. But
He got the job.
bright spot, World Elite then became the best team in the world. Okay. So
Wait, why are you making that statement? We have to back it up with facts. Why was World Elite quote unquote the best
because
team in
they
the world?
went like
IPL
several
5.
months without dropping like a best of, like, was the number like
6.
50 or
Yes.
something?
No, just give me the
6
stats.
months.
Break it down. What was the tournament? What
Because-
happened?
Like, how many best ofs did they play without losing a best of series? Like 54 or something obnoxious.
I don't have data
Messiah,
on it right now, but it's...
If you went
they
stats,
went
like...
an absurd amount of time, and they'd monstered IPL 5 with like their double their double
my
elimination
God.
stuff. They beat they beat Moscow 5, they beat CLGEU, they beat Azubu Flame in the group stage, they beat Fnatic twice. Like this was like early season 3 when EU was like a decent thing. sort
God.
of.
Okay. So now that we have World Elite,
but
so Aaron
Saya and
leaves
Chame were
World
so
Elite,
good.
goes.
Yeah, and Wei Xiao and all. The entire roster was just like good. But then World Elite started to have like internal frictions and internal conflicts, and I don't know at what point the Aaron drama was like revealed to be false, but that definitely had a play in it. But FCZF and Clearlove were the last members of the team to join World Elite, probably brought on by Aaron, and they ended up siding with Aaron. So the team split in half, and Aaron and Clearlove and FCZF ended up going to Edward Gaming, who wanted to make the best team in China. Okay,
The super team of China.
We'll make that statement. They picked up Koro because he has good synergy with Clearlove, because Clearlove used to be his mentor. They picked up Yu because he was from a team called Doran, and like he had kind of a grudge to settle with World Elite a little bit because of some like weird, vague drama that I'm not sure the details on, so I'm not going to talk about it. But they picked him up because they're like, oh, okay, he's versatile, he's a good player, he's got like this interesting background. And then, of course, they really wanted Name. Like, they really wanted Name. Name was, like, the prize. Name, who had been in Positive Energy, had pretty much carried, like, him and Sika had pretty much carried Positive Energy to winning the second playoffs.
Sika gets underrated a lot. Sika, by the way, Sika gets underrated a lot.
Yeah,
that guy's
I said Name and Sika.
I'm not talking about you, like, you underrating him specifically, but, like, no one talks about Sika these days. Like, that dude was a savant at the support position. Like, he was really fucking good at the time. Like, he was just like his understanding of bottom lane was unparalleled.
EDG is formed.
We have now the history of EDG. Now
they get
a
bunch of crap from World Elite's management, and they go through and they end up winning spring playoffs. The end.
They're the traitors, they're the betrayers, they have this reputation. I feel like this is a good, like, people from NA should get behind them.
tries to be the team in black and act all hard ass, but man, EDG are the real thugs of the LPL.
Yeah, dude, if you have a guy who faked his sister's death, his imaginary sister's death, on social media, then you're like the original gangster. Like, it doesn't matter what anyone else does from now on. Like,
you're not hardcore until you fake a suicide on Twitter to get a spot. CLG thinks they have coaching problems.
You could have like 500,000 tattoos and you still wouldn't be like OG as this like fucking Aaron guy. Like, holy shit! And he was a good coach too. Like, from all what the results say, he's a very good coach.
It's worth noting that he's Edward Gaming coach now, and look at how like dominant they are, right? So.
I think a big thing is not only that we finally get to have, China's #1 prestigious AD carry going to Worlds on the stage, but the fact that Aaron is going to Worlds and getting to prepare for those
If there's one guy
teams.
I could meet in esports, it would be Aaron. Not because of his social media mastermind scheme, of course. That is pretty legit.
A shot at love. A shot at love with Aaron.
Okay, so we have their history, their coaching staff. Now, I want you guys to break it down. I'm going to ask about their team fight, their lane phase. What is EDG's lane phase? How does that go? What does that look like?
It depends what we're talking about, because laning phase didn't exist in the grand finals.
Well, depends on Clearlove.
If we're talking about just standard lanes, like, you loses. I think Yu does like sometimes he plays very passively in lane, which I think is a problem. Like, this guy was really aggressive early on in the season, but I think just he knows how to turn it on and off, and that's what I really like about Yu. Koro, a very good laner. I think he's very, very good in lane. Like, I think he's good in lane. He's gotten significantly better than where he used to be.
I'll give you that he's gotten significantly better.
He's gotten significantly better.
Koro is the most improved player of EDG, I honestly feel.
And then
by a large amount.
Name and FCZF, like, the amount of pressure that Name puts out on his lane by himself, like, usually you don't see AD carries put out pressure, like lane pressure. It's usually the supports who are supposed to put out lane pressure. But the amount of lane pressure that Name puts out is nearly unbearable for, like, even me to watch. And I'm, like, halfway across the world. I don't want to, like, watch, like, Name stomp on these fools. The only thing that I have to say about that bottom lane is that their map awareness is not really good. Like, even still they get caught out sometimes. Like, even when it's like fairly obvious, like the jungler is approaching or something like that. So that's one of like two knocks on one of my two knocks on Name. That's part of SCZF too. Like,
yeah, FCZF word better, bitch.
Yeah, dude. Like, they honestly, like, they just they get so aggressive in lane. They don't know when
And
to
where will he
tone down
put
the
his
pressure.
Mejai's?
Yeah, dude.
That is true.
I can't.
His Mejai's on Nami. It's not a bad champ. It's not a bad item on Nami, but
Yeah, okay. He built it, I think, every single time on Janna, which Janna
yeah,
almost had 100%
oh
win rate.
yeah, that was the funny one. Yeah,
That was weird.
It makes sense though. Janna, you can't
Yeah,
kill
oh, yeah.
that champion. She puts like a shield on an Ezreal when he fires his whatever across the
Janna-
map, and
Yeah, but that's like automatically thank God that like Nami put so much presence by himself because John has like no presence in lane.
yeah,
Like,
I think
no
it was very
no gank
specific.
potential, no presence in lane.
Okay, that's their lane phase. I think we can all agree that it's very hit or miss. And inconsistent is probably the issue, except
think
for the
it's-
bot lane.
I think it's funny that they keep trying to like use champions to adapt to the fact that they're not putting pressure on the map, like how Clearlove has been using Eve. I mean, he's been doing better, but Clearlove using Eve because it's naturally puts an impact on the entire map, and then you
Plays
or
Venus.
Unstoppables he's currently undefeated on Zillion, who obviously is like more of a meta pick now, and also gives XP to everybody on the map. So I feel like they're like covering up those issues very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Their
in
pick and
terms
ban
of like,
phase is solid. Their pick and ban is solid.
I think, yeah, the fact that they're ending their laning
They've come a
phase like
long-
faster and faster, and just like focusing on the thing they're good at, which is their team fighting.
So let's talk about their team fighting. Give me EDG's team fight. How does this break down? Don't just give it to
It's
me.
It's so good.
Why is it good? But tell me, explain,
good.
because
It's like
people
fucking-
don't
it's a fucking
understand.
painting.
Like when we say that EDG has amazing team fighting, they don't understand in that context of like the Western world. So why? Give me bullet points.
It's
Like,
fine.
give me
It's-
why is this good?
It's fucking like Van Gogh. Samsung White doesn't team fight as well as EDG does. Like the way these guys team fight is just so good. Samsung White is a little bit more creative, and I think one of here's the thing though. Like I think the most interesting thing the difference I see between China and Korea is that in Korea the collapses are much better in that they're able to because like ward vision isn't as much of an issue anymore, but just because they know like the synthesis is so good, they're able to read the pathing in which the enemy team is coming through, and they're able to position themselves around barriers or choke points in which they can set up really good really good picks. And I think Korean supports are unreal at doing that. I think Heart specifically, Heart is the best in the world at being able to flank around enemies and create choke points, and at the same time peel for his AD carry. So that's like really well done. But EDG, man, like if you just put them around an objective, and EDG they usually fight around objectives, right, or around mid lane. So you don't see them in that many jungle fights. You don't see them in that many situations where there's an ebb and flow of the game where you need to engage and disengage and engage and disengage and kind of figure out just like right when the right time is to re-engage. Now EDG picks fights that they know that okay, it's an all or nothing fight, and let's go try to go ham in this fight and they win. And again, we mentioned this before, but I think Nami is a little bit overrated, but he's a world-class, cerebral, talented, possibly the best AD carry in the world. And just, I think recently what I saw in the playoffs, Koro and Clearlove, like the way they moved around in team fights, like Koro is a fucking stallion in team fights, first of all, because he's able to do so many things at once. And Clearlove, just keep playing Nunu, man. Like all you need to do is keep playing Nunu, and then you might win
Those
the world
absolute
championships.
zeros were pretty real.
Like all
Yeah.
you need to do is just play Nunu. Play like Nunu and Kha'Zix. It's the zoning champions. Like the zoning champions are in your favor. Play Nunu, play Kha'Zix, play J4, play Evelyn. So that's
Kelsey,
fine.
Drexen,
Yeah.
I mean, how would you guys... Why? Hype the team fight. Why do I care about EDG's team fight?
It's so.
You keep saying it's so
it
good.
Works together.
I wanna-
No, I'm starting.
Okay, I'll let you speak then.
Either
So
FCZF or Clearlove have an engage tool. So like FCZF, when FCZF engages, it's usually a single target engage on like an overextended person. When Clearlove engages, it's like he locks them all down, gets the AoE, and then like you will lower all their health bars with his AoE damage, and Korra will come in, he'll zone out the priority targets like completely. He'll get like three or more targets in like one. He'll just like have them all to himself, and he'll be dealing with them. And then Name can just stand there and spam shit like over and over again. It's really great to watch. And again, I feel like the team fights are pretty much hinging on you, Clearlove, and Koro having those synergy to create like the perfect zones. And then of course FCZF is like really smart at knowing when to fight and having that like single target engage tool when he does, and he's the primary shot caller of the team, so it's it all works together in that way. And Name can just like be pretty, not that Name obviously is not working hard, like he understands where to stand, he understands. You can see when they time and opponents time skill shots, he'll predict where they go, so even if he doesn't get it right, you see him move in a way that seems plausible, right, for him to dodge. So it's really hard to out mind game him in the micro level.
Yeah, he's really good.
The West will not be ready for EDG team fights.
No, he's not.
Because
we're so fucked.
So you've heard of the way Hubo and Kelsey have described the team fight. So like, I just want to point out that this is like the impenetrable barrier they have towards Name, and even if you manage to get to him, you then have to get through his like ridiculous mechanics and positioning, and like just how like they were saying, like, you know, you were talking about eternal timers with Messiah, who's like my favorite player in history. This is like what Name has for like the enemy team. Has that shit unlocked, has the timers. Like, the guy is practically invincible if EDG's on point. But the thing I also want to address with the EDG is I think a lot of their scrimming in Korea has probably helped this, but they really have the on and off switch on when they need to like hard engage and peel. This is something that Koro's been especially very, very good at. He knows when he needs to go in and focus on priority targets, but he's also very good at using top lane champions that aren't even like conventionally peeling champions as peelers. Like, if you look at the way he played his like his Kale, he's very good at just like using his abilities to ward off people that are a threat to Name, so Name can do the optimal damage, and that's something that's really important. There's like you could write like a huge article on just like EDG's team fighting alone, and it's just actually ridiculous how well they work out. And it's only gotten better. It's only been only more doors than have opened, and like, it's only been getting more flexible.
And to emphasize, it was good on like day one when they came back from like a 5K or so goal disadvantage against IG, like the first professional game EDG ever played, and they came back from this 5K goal disadvantage because FCZF got one pick onto Z-Tai and they just all collapsed and it was over. Like, it was crazy, and that's only gotten better. I don't know, it's weird.
You mean the same set that Invictus Gaming beat EDG for the first time?
Yeah.
You mean the same set that... No, I'm talking about back in spring.
Oh.
When IG didn't take a single game off EDG the entire spring.
I was talking about summer waiting
Jesus.
to performance. Wow, you just put Invictus Gaming in the ground. Stay down!
Honestly, like, Koro is a masterful top leader in team fights, and like, you know, I can't, like, I say the only reason why I say Name is overrated and keeps like harping like Name, like he's like the faker of like 80 carries. No, like he's not the faker of 80 carries, but and I'm saying this because Faker clearly had no equal. Wei Xiao is very, very good. It's really sad for him not to have a good team. It's really sad for him to have fucking like the Chinese Kiwi kid in Conan, because that guy sucks too. Ooh. And then like, and so like, no, I'm a little bit salty. Dada's better. Dada's probably a little. Honestly, like the reason why I'm like a little bit pissed is because like the kid kind of threw the set against like TSM, and I'm just like, come on, dude, you just had to hit one hook, like. Anyways, so. Oh my god. Clearly, I think Clearlove has made some improvements too. Like I said before, the meta shifted right at 4.11, 4.13. Huge shift in the meta that now we're all talking about like these team fights. Team fights are so important. And now we're getting to high kill games like KTA versus Samsung Blue. Those were high kill games, right? Those weren't like clean, masterful performances. Those were like fucking messy and nitty gritty. You get to like go and try to outrace your opponent, right? Like, baby, you got the Ferrari, I got the Lamborghini. You got to race, you know. So that's the issue. EDG sometimes has trouble like getting their shit together in time in order to rotate to objectives, and that's why they'll look a little bit lost. And I fear that might make them vulnerable and suspect to when they're playing the top 3 teams in the world. But no, they have a good chance. EDG is going to shit stomp every single North American team, and EDG is also going to beat them. If SK Telecom T1K makes Worlds, EDG is going to beat SK Telecom T1K. If Naj and White Shield makes Worlds, EDG will beat Naj and White Shield. If the KT Arrows
against Arrow, Blue, and White,
they're not going to beat Blue. They might beat. They're not going to beat Arrows.
I can agree with that.
they're not going to be arrows. Because in my opinion, arrows are like
the
they're
counter
just so
to their
exciting
style.
to watch. No, honestly, not a lot of people know how to answer the arrows, and Cacao is the best jungler like I have ever seen. Besides Dandy, like this guy is on another level right now. The can they beat Blue?
Because everyone's saying, because EDG and Blue are actually very similar in the type of style and game that they like to play.
The thing is, like, people say, like, only, like, Samsung Blue also takes time to ramp up, so it might take that time. The only thing where I would disagree in terms of the team fighting is that I think Heart does more than FCZF in team fights, and I think Dade also does more than you in team fights. And like I said before, the flanking, the ability to synthesize, what kind of team fights will occur is what makes Samsung Blue so strong. I think EDG can take Samsung White to 5 games.
Really,
So.
I think White would be the one team that Chinese, because they're so methodical. Whereas like Blue, they make some. Blue's amazing still, but I think that there is some space that a Chinese team might
glaring
punch.
issues if you watch the grand finals of OGS.
That's true. Yeah, I think. Well, here's the I really think that Imp might get outclassed. Is the thing if he plays, just because like Mata is Mata's a god in himself, right? But if Nami and FCZF are able to get past the laning phase, which they probably will be able to, unless Dandy completely destroys them, then I think they can take. They can take care of Imp. Just because, and I've said this before, I've said this multiple times, all the way since the beginning of like the Jin Air stealth set. Like I think Imp has serious problems in team fights. So it's whatever.
Guys,
it'll be interesting to see if any of these. My last part, sorry. It'll be interesting to see if any of these teams play Jinx.
Guys, any closing thoughts? I wanted to talk about EDG's warding because. Specifically, I think they right now, other than Young Glory, maybe in Young Glory's last set.
Dude, EDG's got the frickin' meta on lock. I swear to God, it's such a shame that they couldn't form upsets.
Oh my goodness. Because everyone thinks that EDG or China's warding is awful, but I actually think that China's warding was maybe at least on par with the West, maybe a little bit better as far as the vision denial game.
I've been saying this
Agree
for
or
like.
Disagree?
No, I agree. I agree completely. I mean, look, I'd wager maybe better than the West at this point, just based on the playoffs alone. I don't know if they'll prep like this for the regular season, but yeah, EDG specifically, like they had timers on lock, and they would go back and get pink wards and establish vision control before the important objectives came up. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but that's a big upgrade for China, and they were doing it really well. They're executing it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I in terms of they use wards really well. The ward control, just like what I saw specifically, because I started watching Western League of Legends, I started reviewing VODs again and stuff like that. In particular, in the 2 NA sets, both X Special and Lust Boy had masterful positions in terms of how they played the vision game in their respective sets. So it's hard to say right now, but I said this before. EDG plays the way that Riot Games envision the game. That the game of League of Legends should be played. It's dirty. It's nitty gritty. It's all about team fights. It's all about creative jungle pathing and who exerts the most amount of zone. It's all about making split-second decisions on your teleport usage. Really, the meta's in a really fun place right now. The game is fun, dude. The game is really, really exciting and fun to watch. It's a spectator sport, and that's exactly what Riot Games wants, right? That's what they said in the past. They've stuck to their guns all the way, and I think they finally created it, especially now with the assassins back in the middle.
So comes to this. I'm gonna ask you guys, what are the weaknesses of Edward Gaming? How would you beat them? How do you think they're gonna get beat by the Korean teams, or if a European or Western team do beat EDG, how will it happen?
Western team will not beat EDG. Korea will beat them by moving faster on the map, I think.
Yeah, I think the strategy I would take if I wanted to beat EDG is I would have my jungler invade Clear Love early, and I would take my mid laner with them, because I feel, and then I'd have all the other lanes stay, because I feel like you wouldn't follow. And that would be something that could start debilitating Clear Love. And since Clear Love is so key to this team, I feel like he's the only playmaker on the team in the early game, then that's going to be a huge issue for them. So I would have my jungle and mid invade.
forcing you to move is definitely going to be one way to manipulate the map in your favor if you're going against EDG.
I was about to say, if you play really good assassins and then you're able to manipulate vision well, if you play really good mobile assassins, I think that you can make things happen. I also think that you can try to set picks when members of EDG go for wards, or try to erase vision. And so if you had a really interesting specific comp or a comp that relies on, the teams splitting up and peeling instead of team fighting. For example, in case 1, we have something like a Twitch composition, Twitch and Evelyn. God knows Clear Love loves the Evelyn, right? So you might want to take that away from him and then try to set some kind of pick comp, especially with assassins back in the meta. You can do that. Alternatively, you can think about playing the Nidalee and hoping that the Nidalee does well against champions that Koro plays in the top lane, and see if you can have your Nidalee out split push the enemy top laner while you have long range AD carries, preferably paired with a Nunu in the mid lane, and that's the other strategy. If the game, but then right now I'd give it a 6%, like a 5% chance that a Western team beats EDG. It's not even close. EDG's just too good.
Beat the jungler, run the split push. Is that an agreement?
I do think that's actually is an agreement besides just pulling Unstoppable because, even for bans, they don't even bother banning Nidalee in China really. So I don't know how they would deal with that. I know they can do their research, and they probably had some practice with their scrimming Koreans, but it'll be. I do think that's probably one thing they have the lack of exposure to that could be some kind of weakness, especially since Cloro is a very team fight heavy top laner. So. We'll see. I mean, at the same time, I do think EDG is smart enough and has good enough vision control to predict the top lane push so that shit like what happened in NA doesn't happen, but...
the only way to beat China, you gotta beat the Kane. You gotta get the Cane out, and then just fucking split it all the way with the Cane. Holy shit.
The answer to China is Klaus.
you gotta just make sure you stop the ports. And
Curse
then,
for worlds.
Curse.
Curse for
You can also think about You could also think about a split, a fast push game like AD carry mid lane, Tristana mid lane, and hope
I don't
to
know
God that
if
it works.
I think speeding up against EDG because they're one of the more controlled, but as long as that I think that would only work against EDG. I don't think you could ever speed up a game against someone like Starhorn Rail Club. I think the Chinese would just be like, okay, we're gonna go. We're gonna hype this up. Let's go.
They're just so much more used to fast games.
Yes. So, and everyone comments about how messy the Chinese games look. I think that attributes a lot to do with just the style of the meta and that it's so team fight, it's so reactionary. I believe that EDG is probably one of the top teams because they're more proactive in what they've been trying to do recently. But I mean, Jackson, you were saying?
I was saying that's more attributed to how ridiculously critical people have been of LPL's errors compared to what they've done well. I mean, Jesus Christ, you can't honestly say that in comparison in lieu of NA and EU LCS. And yeah, even the OGN Grand Finals had sloppy shit. I mean, that's why I love KTA versus Blue. It reminded me of China last year, but executed 12 times better.
Yeah, thank you to Frostgrid for appearing on Summoning Insight and making the entire Western world fixate onto China's weaknesses.
That's literally what happened.
China! I hate it! She said they were gonna beat the
Guys, it's okay, dude. When we finally get to World Championships, people are gonna be like, holy shit, how do I beat these Chinese teams? Then Yellow Star's gonna pull out his Leona and fucking just dominate.
When Yellow Star beats the Chinese teams with Leona, I'm just gonna drop the mic.
Oh my god,
he's gonna destroy everyone.
Oh my god.
Maybe you fast push. What other ways are there? You can try to outpick and ban them, but then the thing is that
what would you focus bans? Give me 3 bans against EDG that you think would be the most effective.
With 3 bans, well, it depends on what side because
okay, just do blue.
Okay, blue side. Then let's see. I ban. This is how it has to go though. I ban Lulu. The other side bans Maokai. I ban I probably ban Nunu. The other side bans Alistar. I have 1 control ban, so I ban. Let's say I ban let's say I ban fucking Kha'Zix or something like that, and then they have to ban Orianna because Orianna is OP. Or they have to ban. They can. or they can control it. They can have another control pick, but then. And then you'd have to like hope that you get like either the LPLEn early or a Tristana early or like what other top picks are there? You can get like the Nidalee early and try for that. But then I suspect that the last control ban on the side for the purple side from the Chinese will probably be Nidalee. So I really don't know. Picks and bans are incredibly static in this meta. Like, yeah.
I think it's strange how everyone's talking about. Yes, his Nunu was really impressive, but he actually didn't play it a lot. He has amazing Nunu stats, but it's kind of from his history as opposed to his recent performance. Like I know that looking at Pyra across from me when the Nunu pick came out, Pyra had 0 ID, and I actually had to cut him off before he would say something stupid. I could see it coming out of his mouth. He's like, "Oh, we haven't seen ClearLove ever playing it." I was like, "No, that's a comfort pick." But I just think it's funny that now you guys are saying, ban Nunu against ClearLove since he hasn't really.
Hey, you guys use not Hugo.
you should ban Nunu. No. Nunu is like Nunu is a first pick worthy champion though. Is what I'm saying. Nunu is very, 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 very fucking OP right now. Like incredibly overpowered. Like if you have Nunu, you almost win the game. It's like now Kai level.
Explain this to me. Give me the Nunu hype train.
Because this fucking
blood boil me.
Like it's like
Pomelo,
it's like
back to the jungle.
Pomelo, please.
Remember that like LoL Esports had like the Taylor Cock article, like this fucking guy. Look at him.
This fucking guy.
It's like that, like this fucking this fucking Yeti just clears jungle camps like a motherfucker, and then like goes around buys early boards, and then like goes.
Do we have someone typing this up right now?
Let me get my editor in chief.
Let me pull up my notepad. This fucking guy just goes around.
But seriously, in addition to his jungle control, I also want to point out a few things that Nunu has in strengths that I think other champions don't.
But specifically for China.
But yeah, I mean, Blood Boil's one thing, but additionally, I want to point out that since the changes to Tower, where it's like a lot harder to soak for dives, Nunu can build full tank and have the ability to zone out with absolute zero, even if he doesn't actually hit anybody with it. He has the ability whenever his ultimate's up to effectively walk past the turret and just like tank it for a while and use absolute zero to zone anybody from stopping them from sieging towers. And I think that's one of the not so often spoken about benefits of Nunu that make him very strong in this meta.
And to ride on to that, Drexen, and you can, again, correct me if I'm putting words into your mouth. I think a big thing about Nunu, specifically for the region of China, is they are so good at recognizing how to stack AoE and how to create a zone pressure.
Yeah.
For the 80, like, the fact that Nunu was used in conjunction with the Jinx pick, I think was a big factor for EDG's success that game.
Nunu Jinx is so good right now.
Well, it was Nunu Jinx,
it's pretty dirty, yeah.
What did Coral play in the top lane?
Kale, right?
Oh,
Kale.
Yeah, and then it was Lulu in the mid lane. Protect the 80.
And I mean, all of these champions actually benefit off Blood Boil, I want to add. So if they're ganking, then that's actually effective for all.
Yeah,
literally.
The synergy in this team comp is like really good.
Yeah, it's really good. EDG's picks and bans and like their strategy for team comps is amazing. Like literally, Nunu benefits any lane he goes to with that Blood Boil. Like in more ways than just move speed.
The Kale is definitely special. I don't know. Nunu, I just think Nunu's really strong right now.
In lieu of all of us hyping up EDG and, of course, being happy that EDG is the first announced Chinese team for Worlds, Invictus
LGG.
Gaming beat EDG in their most recent showing, 2-0'd EDG in...
What was that, XCS?
I believe so. So, can we now talk about IG Dark Horse? I mean, if OMG... Okay. I'm just going to present this to you guys. Of course, everyone knows my bias. I am an Invictus Gaming fan. OMG... is probably playing the worst game that they've ever played. We've talked extensively how we believe it's communication issues, and even so, I mean, they're still some of their team fights are still really impressive, but just they're all over the board. So now it comes down to LGD, OMG, Starhorn Royal Club, and Invictus Gaming are now the 4 teams competing for the 2 other spots. Who is it going to be? Do you think Invictus Gaming is going to Worlds for China?
I said at the start of the season it's going to be EDG, OMG, IG. I'm sticking to my guns.
That's what I said too, but I haven't seen IG in so long, so I can only really go off of what I know from
and I have that
playoffs.
stupid bet with Hugo.
Starhorn Royal Club looks most likely, but I only say that because I haven't seen IG play in a very long time. But I did say at the beginning of the split IG. I do know that IG was able to 2-0 EDG in a third-party tournament, so that is also something we have to pay attention to.
I actually got to see a little bit of film from the IG EDG set. IG's top laner actually looks pretty good.
Youngsu, yeah.
He did.
I think
Wait,
his
that was
trajectory.
Youngsu?
Yeah, Youngsu is back. They only played Du. Okay, guys. Du was only played so that he could go to
yeah.
Worlds with them as a sub for 3 games.
That guy was so
right?
shit. Should have named himself Don't.
They put They wanted to bring him as a sub, like just in case, and also probably so he could get to go to Korea. And since it was very unlikely that they could place top 4 and make the playoffs anyway, and it was and they had a spot in the qualifiers going forward, they decided to play Du for their last 2 sets so that he could go with them to Worlds for funsies.
Yeah, so you have to have a rule in the regular
Youngsu-
LPL where you have to have 3 games played for them to be a sub at Worlds. So
Youngsu is going to be their main top laner. Yeah.
Okay, so Cubo, they say IG is going. Do you think IG is going? I think IG is going.
they're gonna get so trashed, and we're all just gonna.
Oh, I cannot wait. Like, if there's a team that the Western teams can beat from China, it is totally Invictus Gaming. Like
because
Invictus Gaming.
their skill range is just obnoxious.
They're like all of their players are so good, but they're just like, what are they doing? I don't understand. They're not.
For anyone who hasn't seen Invictus Gaming, because I know we have a couple of new people, they are the worst team in China and the best team in China at the exact same time. They will do the most brilliant things and the stupidest shit back to back in the same goddamn play. It is incredible. And Zatai is possibly one of the most fun players to watch in LPL. That guy will play anything mid lane. He plays it incredibly well. And I hope he plays Lux. I hope they go to Worlds just so he can play Lux mid.
Zitai was also the first professional Zillion this season, so you can thank him for trendsetting.
Yeah, and he used to play it a while
In
ago,
season
too.
1 and 2.
Yep.
Otherwise, regionals. Describe me the regional tournament, or at least what we think. When is it going to happen?
The latest of all the other ones, so like I think it was September 6th. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, please. Starts the 6th, and we don't know if it's best of 3, but it was planned to be best of 3. We're hoping to God it's best of 5, but Tencent might set it to be best of 3 or whatever, which is really unfortunate, but I don't really know too many of the details because they switch things up a lot.
It's still double LM, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, double elimination still. Which actually I do want to point out that I do think best of 3 is okay for double elimination. In context of like the tournament format rather than single elimination best of 3, which I feel is really bad. I do think that is the one situation where best of 3 can be justified in. So it might not be as bad as I think if they do keep it.
Last question for you guys. I'm sure everyone saw the $15 buy your favorite team. I want you guys to make your... If you could put all
Toys. Toys for
no,
sure.
No, not toys. Keep it in China.
Toys.
I'm just
Toys is
trolling.
the best.
Just toys. I can't believe that Name was only $3. I would spend $3 on that.
I thought that
Or
was
that, who did double if it ranked over that I thought was really curious? He's the $2 one.
Okay,
Piglet.
so
You got
a
ranked over
little bit of
Piglet.
insight.
The
in
80 carry is all fucked up to me.
So a little insight into the LOL esports machinations there. Number 2 used to be Prey. And then it was published, when I saw it go published, it was Double Lift, so I was just really confused. But,
What
yeah.
the
Prey at his peak was pretty good.
Hey
Okay,
man,
Are we talking
no.
about,
Prey
are we
in the
talking about
tournament
only,
is like Korea.
No,
Are we talking about
in
only
China.
Chinese players?
Yeah, only Chinese players. I want
Chinese.
players that are still playing. So I don't want Mike being like Messiah. No. Out of all of... Okay, so just start from the bot. So 80 carry, support. Just go. Hubo, start. Your dream team, best 5 Chinese players on one team.
Support. 0.
So these can be players in the LPL, but they don't have to be Chinese, right?
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
pick 0.
Okay. Support 0.
No, fuck the Koreans.
Support-
0 doesn't get to go.
Okay.
Ninja doesn't get to go.
Whoa,
Support
racism.
0. 80 carry.
That's gonna be quoted out of context now and sent to you as hate.
Please, someone make a clip of that.
My 80 carry is Wei Name.
Name.
It's,
Name and
yeah,
0? Okay,
Name.
Yeah, it's Name
who's
and
your
0.
who's your mid
No
laner?
way.
My mid laner is. My mid laner is Diangun.
Oh my god, thank you so much. I think that guy is
My-
so overlooked. Jungler.
My mid laner is Diangun. My jungler would have to be Drug, and my top laner, who else but Koro? Because there's really not many other top laners but Koro #1.
I feel like would be so confused if he had Koro to
No
heal for
Amazing
him.
Jay?
Be like, what?
You didn't pick
What?
Amazing Jay?
Where is Amazing Jay?
Amazing Jay. I mean that church is. I mean, we've lost a lot of donations.
Okay,
We've lost a
so
lot of
the
donations.
Cubo has.
I've seen him just on one point. You know, I hype up Amazing Jay a lot, but then I've seen him in the LSPL recently.
You guys are breaking up, aren't you?
Okay, so
Yeah,
Hubo has Koro, Drug, Diangoon, Name, and Zero. Wait, Kelsey, go.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with PYL. Wei Xiao.
Okay.
And I want Cool.
Jungler? I know who you're gonna say.
Yeah, Drug, going. I'm really boring. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so effectively you took OMG and then you killed off LGDs. And we're the lead.
Yeah, more or less.
Mike will go.
Oh, hey, OMG without Donna. Pretty good.
Oh, see how that worked out?
Yeah,
I killed
obviously.
OMG's bot
Wait,
lane and I just
just-
subbed in.
Really quickly, wait, this is the team that's the best right now, or has the potential to be the best?
Just who
'Cause
you
if
think
it-
is going to be the best? Like if you could
Who-
acquire Chinese
if-
players.
Oh, if I had to.
Don't
if I
tell
had
me
to
you're getting
make a
off the
Chinese team-
Diangoon hype train. Sir,
Oh, okay,
you
no.
committed.
If I had to make a Chinese team for the future, then it would be support, no hearts. I mean, it would be support, Lei, AD carry, XQ, mid lane, Wayless, jungler, Drug, and top laner going. If I had to make a team for the
maximum
future.
potential team right there.
That is the
that's-
CLG of teams.
That's like my team that I could like personally
CLG
raise
China,
into like
please.
the fucking like
Oh, they're
most
banned
unreal
from
team.
OGN. Oh my god. CLG for
Okay.
LPL.
So,
Double if will go back to his
you know, I
roots.
would normally say PYL for support, but after seeing Zero like consistently flay Shyvana's ults and like just wreck kids in the earlier in the playoffs, I gotta go with him now. AD carry would be a dead even tie between Name and Wei Zhao.
You have to pick one. Okay. Let's
God
not
damn.
there.
Okay,
Yeah.
think.
Flip a coin if you need it.
I'm gonna be ballsy and go with Wei Zhao, I think, and then be a toss up between Cool and Diangoon mid. I think Cool because he can play like 7 billion champions.
Yeah, but Diangoon will carry the motherfuckers on YG. That's how
Pretty sure
fucking
Diangoon
cerebral
can
he is.
too. Like, what the fuck, Vega?
Yeah.
That was amazing. If you guys want to see Vagar played in competitive play and shit all over Cool,
Yeah, you guys are right. I don't know. Man.
The fact that Diangoon has Shenlong on his team and can
Yeah.
Carry.
and Yujin on
Right,
his team and
right.
can
But at the
transport
same time, he had an
Shenlong.
entire split where he was like.
You're right, but I think
shit,
the leaning thing for me, as far as like if I was building a team right now to perform at Worlds and it was like All Stars or whatever, and they just naturally had synergy, I'd say Cool because of his experience specifically. Then probably Drugging going top. So
wow, the OMG
apparently,
hype.
apparently just formed the same team as
Ugh.
Ghost.
Except
minus
for
0.
PYL, yeah.
Yeah.
Screw you guys.
That was
My
really
team. Kitties, Kid, Zatai, Illusion, and Youngsu.
Oh my god, dude, come on! At least put PDD back up there.
Okay,
Okay,
I was
fine.
gonna say-
PDD gets to come back from retirement and he gets to be on my team.
And we'd have Xiao Wei Zhao back from the dead too. I think that guy's been doing a really good job casting. By the way, like he's on like the casting desk. Like he's like been like going to all these events. I think he's been doing pretty well.
Wawa?
Happy to see him.
I like Wawa's bow ties.
Yeah.
His shirts are always pretty good. Okay, that was all I had scheduled.
Okay, it's time for Frostgren's Ice Bucket Challenge. Let's go.
Please.
Oh my god.
Oh, we should. If I wasn't sitting on my desk, I would totally dump ice water on me. I was gonna make a video of me donating and explaining. It doesn't even matter. Series to watch. Mike likes to do like, what is the game to watch? What was the best series of the playoffs?
First set between Starhorn Royal Club and OMG, I think, where OMG came back.
Even sitting through the first 2 games, which were possibly those first 2 games in the Starhorn versus OMG, that wasn't just the worst games in LPL; those were the worst games in the world.
You know what?
NAEU play better than those first 2 games.
You know what pissed me off is in retrospect while I was watching NALCS, I was like, all right, man, these first 2 CLG versus Curse games are going the same way as OMG versus SHRC. It's gonna happen again. Like the same thing happened. People aren't ready for it, and the third game happened. I'm just like,
never mind. I want to say.
But also, I also want to do an additional thing that people should look out for. It's actually on GGNet. They have Chinese support now, and you can just see how ridiculous streamers are in China now. Because so you can go to GGNet and like check out the streams, and I shit you not, fucking Dion Goon from YG, which is like the 7th place LPL team, had like quadruple the viewers of I'm a Cutie Pie. It was ridiculous. He had like 89K or something. I was like, what the fuck?
If you haven't seen him play, Dion Goon, though, is possibly one of the most fun players to watch.
Yeah. Carries YG. Like, the fuck? Like, that's like, it's like literally Shifter carrying Coast, but like 5 times that, because...
It's literally
Well, no, not
Faker.
5 times that, but literally Faker.
It's literally Faker.
literally Faker, like Faker, like dueled all the time in the mid lane, just like fucking kept fighting.
He's just so good. Kelsey, Hubo, series to watch. Do you agree? The OMG Starhorn Royal Club?
It has to be OMG Starhorn Royal Club.
I want to say the series to watch is the second OMG Starhorn Royal Club. I think that one is like much better in terms of like interesting. It definitely highlights Starhorn's like inability to close and Insect being like really weird, and also the fact that the games that OMG lost were like so back and forth, and some of them is like much more exciting than the games that OMG lost versus Starhorn Royal Club in the first series. But the game to watch is the 4th game of the series, just because like you get to see someone monster someone on Yasuo.
In terms of like trying to be informative about the LPL scene, you might want to think about the finals, because like, you know, OMG was really close with Starhorn Royal Club, and like, but then you just saw like the disparity in the levels between EDG and OMG, like really just how dominant EDG were. And if you want to like learn about the Chinese scene, then you have to be like, okay, like I'm gonna watch like what OMG does wrong, and then now I'm gonna see what EDG does right, and EDG plays nearly perfectly, so good.
But at the same time, the OMG versus EDG set earlier, that was 4 games, I thought were like much closer.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I was talking.
Are you guys all picking OMG games to watch?
Because OMG is so fun to watch.
Entertainment factor, man.
EDG LGD was the best series. I thought that was really good.
That was good too. I mean, I think like even though the set was 3-0, it wasn't like a curse for CLG.
I
think it wasn't that bad of a stop.
I need the first.
This is our result. Curse versus CLG, or no, this is our bracket. KT Arrows versus Blue. Curse versus CLG. On where on the scale were we?
That's a really good scale. I like that.
We're at a solid game 1, game 2 of TSM versus Dignitas, just right in the middle. Oh my god. I actually. That's the first. If I like ever like help an NA team, that's the first thing I'm gonna do. Like, yo, just play Nasus and like fucking like see how it goes.
Wait.
Like,
we haven't lost all of our Western fans yet. The question of the chat is Alliance versus EDG. Who would win?
Alliance 3-0. I mean, sorry, it's EDG 3-0.
I don't want to speak
from
Hugo. I don't think Alliance. It's not like Alliance can't beat them, but holy shit, you need to go watch the Stomp. I mean, okay, let's put it this way: OMG is in the worst shape of their life, but still, you can't discredit how well EDG played. Go watch the grand finals and like. Tell me that a Western team's going to beat EDG, because I don't think so. Then again, there are external factors that could affect, you know, yada yada. But and like in prime condition versus prime condition, I don't see Alliance beating EDG.
EDG's gonna fucking.
Hubo's high.
Yeah, I honestly had a few shots before this, but then EDG's going to. Oh god, it's going to be terrible to watch. I think I actually think.
Stream.
You know, I think the funny thing is that as good of a player as you is, I actually think Froggen might do well, because Froggen.
Undoubtedly, no one is debating that Froggen will not do well. It's Shook and Wicked that I think everyone. Shook can have amazing games. He can either be the best jungler or he can be the worst jungler. I just think, again, it's a consistency issue. That said, you're looking across at Clearlove, who probably has the same exact track record. He's either going to be amazing or he's going to shit the bed.
Here's the thing though. I think that in the game of League of Legends, in like any sport, like esport quickly becoming sports too, you can have superstars, and Froggen is a superstar. He's one of the few, if not the only superstar in the Western scene. When you have a superstar on your team can be full of shitters, and you can still somehow carry games. Best example, SK Telecom T1K. Team full of shitters, Faker's a superstar, somehow carries games. So it's very unlikely, but if there's anyone you want to look at, Shook has to have a fantastic game, like really just have like one of his really nice games that he
he's
is
flashing
better.
over Wraith Wall and just murdering
Yeah,
whoever's on the
I
mid
feel like-
tower.
I feel like
But in
EDG can
those-
take care of Shook as a threat in picks and bans, though.
But in those situations, your superstar has to be like incredibly above. I feel like Faker is incredibly above everyone, and I don't feel like Froggen will be incredibly above like every single member of EDG, right? So
No.
Well,
Well,
Froggen's above.
Keying it back to
you.
Drexen, because I think Drexen made a good point that if you're going to take care of Shook, it's going to be picks bans. That said, China, their picks ban phase is pretty shit tier, and they do have a reputation of overlooking Western teams. Do you think that that's going to be a downfall, that China is, say, let's still stick with Alliance, that China is going to overlook Alliance and just get shit canned?
I mean, even if Shook does get his best champion, sometimes like if he gets Lee Sin,
Riven,
like he wants, he still will have bad games. So I feel like it is still like a mental thing with him. So.
Someone on chat said we always talk about Froggen in this chat. Is this China talk? I think that's so accurate.
we're just going to change it to Froggen talk.
Froggen talk.
If you come near the end, you will always see that, because like we answer questions
It's always
from
prediction.
chat,
It's always prediction.
and people in chat are always just talking about LCS while we're discussing China. So that's like
How
a
would
result of what
Alliance
happens.
do?
Also, like,
Like, there's a huge
Frostgrave.
NA argument in the chat for like an hour straight.
I think that the,
How would
this,
Curse
you know,
do? No,
I
real
s-
hard-hitting question. How would Curse do against EDG?
I was about to say, there are a few superstars in the Western scene. I said before that Froggen was the only one. There might be one other superstar, and his name is Cop. Now,
Hotshot.
with Cop putting the team on his shoulders against this EDG, will he like just fucking like break the gates open, get into the zone? Like,
Jokerich needs to rise up
Dude.
and meet these.
Top greater than Name confirmed.
Cop, oh Cop.
Well, doesn't look like he's
Any
worse than
80 carry. The only North American 80 carry that I can see succeeding in LPL is Altec, because that guy is really good, and I think Altec is incredibly talented. Sneaky's pretty good too, but then I don't think that
Sneaky has like had the greatest change. Like watching Sneaky on Kog'Maw, I was just like, holy shit, this guy has really.
Yeah, Altec's more talented though, I think. Just when I see Altec play, like this guy can like do some like crazy stuff, but then he needs a little bit. I think he just needs a little bit more time, and then he'll be superstar level or star level.
looks so impressive because like an upgrade from Yellow Pete to Altec is like a huge.
Wait, we got a long question. I'm trying to grab this question before the chat moves. It's moving
Go ahead,
too
go ahead.
fast.
We can move on.
Would a Western team stand on Alliance for argument be able to split push pure objective play around China's team fight heavy comps? It's unlikely that they'll ever win a team fight, but is China's strategy up to par yet? I watched some LPL, but it's all team fight heavy, so maybe the secondary question is what team... God damn it. Damn it, chat! What team in China should I watch for strategic play over team fight? So two things. Would a Western team be able to outmaneuver China strategically, or is that only based to to Korea, or is there any team in China that plays a strategic play? I actually think that's LGD. But
I
you guys
usually
know.
YG,
talk a
man.
lot. Yeah, that's true.
YG.
I usually talk a lot, but I'm just gonna say this one thing and then leave it at that. In this meta, strategy revolves around team fighting and around Dragon and Baron. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's one of
Yep.
my points as well. My other point is I think that since China's warding is caught up, like in particular in the top teams, and they started to change some of their things, like OMG, for example, and this team is like really hard to talk about because they are looking so weird and so inconsistent, but when they have good games and when they do well, they play like the most pick-oriented, they're like the most pick-oriented team in China, and the least like 5v5 oriented. But I think the thing is that it's a lot harder to outmaneuver them now than it was at All Stars. Like it's significantly more difficult in terms of their warding has improved, their map movement has improved, and if Chinese teams like want to fight you and they can predict where you are, they will fight you. Like that's unfortunately the way it is because they'll bring like so many engaged tools and they'll just look for you and hunt you down and try to 5v5 you to death.
Would you guys?
I pretty much
Drexen
agree.
Go.
No, I mean, I pretty much agree. I already stated earlier how I feel about it. And, like, yeah, that's actually one way that they could potentially win is if they manage to bring out, like, a split push that diverted pressure away. But even then, I don't see it being, like plausible to get more than a single game.
And split push does exist in China now, and they do, like, have ways of dealing with it, so...
Let me ask this guy's
hell,
question.
17 played Jax all the time.
Because
so,
he is just writing this Fnatic copy pasta. He
Yeah.
wants to know how he thinks.
Copy pasta.
My
King
only
copy.
concern is Fnatic versus Alliance. But that said, it's really hard to compare like how a region does specifically, like the top 2 teams in a region, and then breaking that apart. Like I don't think there's any correlation between like Alliance being very dominant over Fnatic
I feel like Chinese
Fnatic's
teams
performance
do it,
being
Fnatic
dominating over.
Like, that's just my feel.
Fnatic
Go
plays
Jackson?
so slowly.
Yeah, that's my issue with Fnatic.
So slowly, like fucking turtle race. Like
Even EDG will move faster than Fnatic.
yeah, that's saying something. Fnatic just their map movements are just so like,
And, like,
takes them
if they-
so long to do everything. What the hell, man? Like, come on, we want some action.
If they get against Fnatic and OMG, then Fnatic and not Fnatic, Starhorn Royal Club and OMG, then Starhorn Royal Club and OMG will like pressure them early and force them to make mistakes like really quickly, really out the back and force them to get behind. If they get against Edward Gaming, they'll just like stall out and play EDG's game, and then EDG will destroy them in team fights. Like, it's unfortunate, but I feel like Fnatic. People keep asking about like Fnatic Cloud9. Alliance, like how will they do? And I feel like Fnatic is probably in the worst position of those 3. So
The other question coming up now is people talk about how good Name is, but whatever EDG bot lane. But what about EDG's bot lane as a whole? Do they stand a chance against White's bot lane, Imp and Mata, or is FCZF? And let's do that in extension, Deft and Heart. Or is FC, and let's even do Arrow and I can never say their support's name correctly.
Hachani.
Hachani.
Yep.
Thank you. How do you guys think that FCZF and Name would match up against Arrow?
My problem
Deft?
is I feel like
Mata-
FCF will be neutralized and
Yeah.
make the lane even because I don't think he's better than either of those supports. Not
Mata
even
is-
close.
Mata is the best support that the world has ever seen.
No, I agree. I
This guy,
think he's a god.
This guy is a transcendent player in League of Legends. Like, this guy's a top 50 challenger account that I'm pretty sure he only like plays mid lane champion. So that just gives you an idea, like in Korean challenge solo queue. So that just gives you an idea how like good his mechanics are. His decision making now. His decision making is barely ever wrong. He always hits clutch plays. Heart of steel, that guy. Heart and like
Well,
fucking ice cold in his veins. Like,
Are
this
we-
guy can do anything.
Are we all in agreement that a Chinese bot lane would not be able to beat?
Samsung
Mata.
White? No.
I don't think so.
Okay, so
I think it would be even, but I also want to point out that this is something I addressed on a previous episode, is that in like a box, like a 2v2 box, right, I do think that it'd be about even, but maybe more lean towards Korea, just because the support influence, I believe, is heavier during the laning phase than the AD carry. But I think if the LPL teams lose lane against the Korean teams that attend Worlds, it's going to be because of things on other areas of the map. Like, it'll
jungler,
be because,
mid pressure, top lane.
yeah, it'll
teleports.
be pressure, which is exerted on other places of the map that'll allow, like, Korean teams to safely push in, and then at that point, there's not too much counterplay, no matter how mechanically sound you are or whatever.
Yeah,
because
Dandy also, I think as we get further along, like get deeper into this meta, talking about like 1v1 matchups is getting more relevant just because of how integral it is to communicate and make sure you're sharing information across the team as a whole. And you can see that if you listen to team communication, if you listen to how like pro teams communicate, right? The thing is though, like if we're just talking about 1v1, like Dandy is also very, very good at League of Legends. Like, he's better than Clearlove. Like, so if we're just talking about Samsung White's matchups.
But then also I want to make a clarification. I do think that Name can outplay. Like, when people will get on me because I always talk about how the Chinese AD carries will outplay the Korean AD carries. I'm not talking about laning phase, obviously, because supports are really strong, like really important in laning phase. I'm talking about more like in team fight. I feel like Name can outperform a lot of the Korean AD carries.
I always thought
In
Imp got
particular,
too much
Imp.
hype. I always thought Imp got a little bit too much hype. Then again, I'm the guy who says Nami gets too much hype, right? So what do
Next,
I fucking
next I got two good questions, but I'm going to grab this one because it's in the chat and I haven't copy-pasted it. We know that Chinese is better at mid and / bot, but do you guys think the Western teams have any better top laners? And I feel like this is very true, specifically for what Ann Prog said the other day about Going. So I want you guys, honestly, do you think that NA, Western teams have better top laners? Who do you think are the standout?
Koro or Going?
Well, those are kind of the top two. I mean, identify the top LPL top laners, and identify the Western top players, and then just put them, because top is, that's an island, effectively.
Going, Koro, and Amazing J. Done. Now, the top Western talent. Who's the top in the West? Balls and Quas, I guess, at this point. And then I was going in the EU. Wicked Kappa. No,
there was an article that just came out on Dyrus that has his insane statistics. But I always thought that Dyrus was just strong in his versatility of what he could offer a team.
I don't think Dyrus is very strong right now. Wait, who's the top one of SK Gaming?
Freddy.
Freddy?
Oh god.
Aatrox.
Oh my god.
Freddy,
God.
dude, Freddy's been really good.
I think
oh yeah, we totally forgot about Ackerman. Godlike.
Oh.
Shit.
Godlike's really good.
I think he's overrated.
Give me top two top laners from NA and EU.
I feel like in a Chinese contest, Ackerman is overrated. Even in LPL, when he was in LPL, people knew he played Renekton, and he was a Renekton player. It's a really good godlike quote-unquote Renekton player, but his other champions were not on par, in my opinion.
West Rice Renekton coming in.
No, give me the top two. Go. Come on, guys. Top two. Focus. Turtles. Come on.
West Rice.
Turtle.
I swear to God.
Top two West?
Top
Are we
two.
talking about both NA and EU?
Yes. Give me the top one from NA, the top one from EU. Go.
If we're talking about solid, just performance, then Ian Tanso.
Soaz?
Freddy.
Okay, Soaz and... You're taking Soaz for EU?
Oh, one of each. Okay, so Soaz and Balls for taking...
Okay, Soaz, he says Soaz Balls. What do you say?
Soaz Balls.
Yeah, but Zazis isn't going to Worlds.
Kevin's pretty good, too.
But we're not going to take Freddy.
I'm not taking
Fine, I said, dude, I don't know why you guys hate Freddy, but whatever. It's so.
I don't think it's good.
I think it's Soaz and Balls for grabbing one of each.
Fine.
And I don't.
I think.
I'm not. I don't want to bold predictions of either. I want to say.
I just want this matchup. You guys are taking too long.
No,
it's about
I think Chinese top laners are better than.
They're better, but I don't think it's by huge bounds.
Maybe all of them except Soaz. If we're talking just about the top two, then I think Korra Going will be better than all of them except Soaz, maybe.
Okay, what about Soaz? Do you think would allow him to have an edge against Koro or Going? And be clear though, because Koro and Going have very different styles as well. Does that speak about the strength of Soaz? Are you saying that he would be able to deal with those two different styles?
I think Soaz will do better against Koro in lane, just because Koro is not the best laner in my estimation still. I think that actually Koro could be a little bit better than Soaz. I'm not sure. I really want to see Soaz against Chinese tops, because I remember last time he went to Worlds and he was just besides, Ackerman, who went to Worlds and he was just the best top laner in the world wasn't there. And this was Drexen's article, so whatever. Or if he was, then I didn't face him or whatever. So I want to see him against Going. This is kind of, and that's... Someone asked me on Ask FM today, what are my hype matchups, and I actually did put down Soaz versus Going. I would like to see that, because I think Going would do well.
I think Soaz would do pretty well against Going.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't think it would be a crush either way. I think top lane would be fun to watch between top Western teams in China, to be honest.
Well, I don't think top Western
Soaz
teams generally.
really
I think just Soaz. Yeah.
Soaz he's a salty motherfucker, but I think he's good. I think he's really good at what he does.
It depends on because I think Soaz is almost Chinese in the way he plays, because he's very emotional. But yeah.
Wow, that's almost racist. But okay.
No, it wasn't
How's it racist? What the fuck?
Chinese teams are notorious for their tilt, right? And that's gotten progressively better, and that's what I'm talking about.
The other question that we had in the chat was, so if LGD with a bad team is succeeding, and these are all quotes, with superior strategy, why not the rest of the China is doing the same?
Can you repeat the question?
I think what the question was is if LGD is succeeding with superior strategy. So identify, how did LGD get so far? Is it on mechanics or is it on strategy? And why isn't that being carried over to the rest of the Chinese teams? Or do you think that the rest of the Chinese teams have superior strategy for LGD?
This actually isn't that hard to answer. Basically, it's because, okay, so other teams, like, within their little, like, island in China, which obviously is an island, I'm seeing it in the context of how different their play is from the rest of the world, the top teams have been able to succeed for so long without actually doing too much adaptation of strategical play because their individual play is so good. The difference here is that LGD, in relativity to the rest of China, does not have their mechanics to fall back on. So in order to beat other teams, they were like, well, we're not going to just magically outskill all these guys and beat them in lane. So we're going to have to adapt strategically, and we're going to have to put a lot of work into our strategical play to find advantages that we can have, like, and get gold leads so we have an advantage in these team fights, and we're on even footing with the rest of the teams. So, like, a lot of the, like, okay, when you're improving at something, it's because there's, like if you're not improving, it's because there's a scarcity somewhere of things like that you actually need to improve on to become successful. So with LGD's scarcity of mechanical skill, they needed some way to climb, and that was through strategical play. Whereas you can become complacent if you're a top team and you don't necessarily need those things. Now, top Chinese teams have gotten better in the sense of strategical play, but in terms of, like, specifically why LGD succeeded, that's like what they pinpointed and rode. And it was kind of the same with YG. Like, I mean, YG does have very mechanically skilled players, but they needed to put more effort into things that other teams were lacking in order to make themselves stand out and climb.
If you have significant weaknesses, you need to find out how to overcome those weaknesses as a team, right? The thing is, though, is that instead of getting, like,
people who say going is good but not consistent only watch the playoffs. Okay, I'm done.
No, I agree with that. I think Going is possibly the most consistent player in the entirety of League of Legends. Or not League of Legends, excuse me, LPL.
I just
in the entirety of League of Legends, LPL.
I saw it in chat. That was my pet peeve. I'm done now. Okay, back to regular discussion.
Now, even in the shitter games that OMG had, I think Going actually played really well.
I want teleport to not be a thing and see how Going does with Ignite again. That's my thing. Like, I want him to kill other top laners.
To end this, to close it out, the last question that I'm going to take is, we talked a lot about how bad Ninja is, the ex-World Elite members, but the fact that Axine got replaced, but Ninja didn't. Talk to me about the history and why you guys think that Axine got replaced, but not Ninja.
Well, Ninja, they were trying to get Sukum back, I believe, but he declined. So that was the only thing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Kelsey wrote the article, so she knows this better than anybody here.
I don't know. Like, it's so they said, the way World Elite said this, just so we have the official information out there, was that Axine left, okay? So that's the official, and they invited Raw back, but it was on stream, like, so everyone says confirmed on Saint's stream and stuff. What you don't realize is that, like, Chinese streams, they say all this stuff that's going to happen before their teams officially announce it, so it's just like, no, people know. And then they post it on their Weibo. It's like, oh, it's a big announcement. And we can't hear about it in the West until they post it on the Weibo because you can't they don't record their streams, so you can only catch it live, right? And if you don't understand Chinese, like, there's that problem. So we only hear it after it's an announcement, but it's like common knowledge beforehand. On stream, Raw and Sukum were invited back onto World Elite. Sukum declined. Raw said yes.
And you're saying that's why Ninja is still on the team, because Sukum was the mid laner. Yeah. The mid laner declined, the jungler said yes, so they kicked the Koreans off. Is that what you're
9%. I bet they're gonna find a new mid laner.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident they will.
Ninja has a skill ceiling.
So how would you say that the Korean experiment went? I mean, you have Starhorn Royal Club, and you have World Elite, and then World Elite Academy also brought in their Koreans, although they're not even really part of this conversation because they didn't make kind of the top bracket. I mean, is this a success?
I might get a little bit bashed for this, but the Korean experiment went terribly, really terribly. Just horrible experiment, horrible failure of a project, and that's because none of the teams. There's only one team. When you bring in Koreans, like, that's like fucking like the MLS bringing in David Beckham, right? You expect the LA Galaxy to win, and they did. But in this case, like, you bring in Koreans who were considered top tier, and you basically implied to fans that you were going to, do great things with these Korean players, and then you didn't show up. So it's a horrible experiment. If I bet you that with Chinese players, World Elite would have ended in 5th place. World Elite Academy would have ended in 8th place. Starhorn Royal Club would have ended probably in like 3rd place or something like that. Well, maybe not Starhorn Royal Club, just because 0 is so damn good. But you promise your fan, you kind of you're shaming your fans almost. People have to realize that this is a thing. There's a cultural aspect to this too, because just kids brought up from a young age are taught, even me, we're taught oh, the Chinese are this, Chinese people are that. Yeah, there's definitely elements of that, especially those are exacerbated, those are enlarged on the internet, right? So, all these Chinese fans had to sit through, the supposed humiliation of having Koreans on, the Chinese national team on, World Elite, on, Starhorn Royal Club, right, with all these Chinese icons on these teams. And if you get anything less than 1st, then what's the point? What's the point? So, it's the experiment failed. And it was either going to take off or it was going to fail horribly. And in this case, the latter happened. And I admire them for trying, but it just looks like that this wasn't the way out.
Okay. I think that. Do you guys have any closing statements?
I want to just. I want to say that. Excuse me. World Elite, I think, would have finished top 3 personally. I think World Elite would be going to Worlds if they kept Sukum and Raw and kept that roster and kept playing with them, because they took really convincing games off Edward Gaming and OMG in the playoffs, and the flaw was their adaptability with their new strategies, and then they gutted that roster, and they ended up at the end with so many obvious communication issues and no one being on the same page, and it was just really hard to watch. So I don't know, it's sad. But
last thing, 3 Chinese teams going to Worlds. Who are they going to be? EDG, we already know one. Yeah.
LGD.
He wants to know. Go.
EDG, OMG, IG.
Okay.
Unless it's Starhorn Royal Club.
EDG, OMG, IG, the GGGs. Kelsey?
LGD.
Same?
yeah,
Kibo? Same?
EDG, OMG, LGD.
LGD, he says. Wayless for Worlds. Okay, with that,
I
everyone,
want Wayless to go to Worlds.
this has been another exciting episode of China Talk. We try to do this every Sunday, I believe, after the games. Of course, the schedule was changed just because we were kind of in transit, things like that. Hubo, of course, coming to us from Portugal in his hostel. Again, introducing our panelists. It's going to be Hubo Soldra representing Paravine. We got Kelsey Moser representing On Gamers and LOL Esports, and then Drexen representing the editor-in-chief of Esports Heaven. So huge thank you to them. Huge thank you for Twitch to allowing us to have this platform to reach this. And again, if you want to watch any English coverage of the LPL games, it is all live on twitch.tv/LPLEn. But since we're streaming on this, you should already know that.
We're gonna rebroadcast this morning's OMG versus Wings of Aurora games after this. So there you go.
We also have a little bit of a mix-up in the coming caster. I don't even know
What?
how I want to say that.
What the fuck?
What?
Either way. Just smile and wave, guys. Wave.
Spoilerino.
Spoilerino.
Spoiler,